Well, good morning and welcome back to MAFT UK. What I'm doing is I'm actually doing some drop shot fishing on Lancaster Canal. This is my second day doing it. I've actually tried last week as well, and unfortunately I didn't catch anything. So what I've done, I've decided to come much more local to where I live, and I'm going to walk a mile or two up the bank and I'm going to give it a try. So let's have a look at last week, let's have a look at how I got on, and then we'll drop into this week. Like I say, I've never done it before. It's very basic, and if you've never done any drop shot fishing, just stay with me. You might learn one or two things, and so might I. I'm actually after perch. I've got all the required permits to fish on the canal, so again, hopefully someone will come and check. Otherwise, where's my money going? Until then, I'm going to catch up with this canal boat that's in front of us, get to the junction, sit down, set my rod up, show you what I'm doing, how I'm fishing, and we'll get on with it. I'm definitely catching up with that boat. So, from a canal perspective, Lancaster's 5 1/4. What, you can read. You can read. Yes, it is a very sparse tackle box, but at the end of the day, don't need to carry everything. So the drop shot rig, what is it? Well, I bought this kit, and it comes with 3 weights like that, and they come on the hook pre-attached. And that also comes with 3, 4 even, micro lures. Now, I've got the smaller lure, purely and simply because I'm only after little perch, and that's all I'm after. But I'll show you quickly how it's set up. So the weight goes on the bottom. About 500mm later on, the hook is pre-attached directly to the line. And then another 500mm, you have the connection to the main line. So it's a very, very basic rig. Now, things to note is that the hook faces uppermost and the lure is just baited in on the very end there, just through the head. So that is a very basic drop shot rig. Now, you don't have to have that particular type of lead. You can buy those to go with it depending on what you feel is better for the environment that you're fishing in. Right, so what we're looking at there is a little incoming stream, and I can see it's also bringing just a tiny amount of silt with it. But it may be bringing some naturals down from the stream into the river, and I might just have a few casts on this little Jessie Tomurrai over along to the area and drag it through. It is close to the end of the lock, but I'm just going to give it a go. It just looks about right for me, so why not? Let's give that a go. Definitely feel the bottom. Definitely hitting clumps of weed as I pull it in. Certainly takes some getting used to, that's for sure. I quite like the slenderness of the lead because that's not it's not catching in the weeds so much. Although it is catching, it's not digging in. So let's keep going. You don't really need to reel in fast at all. It's not like spinning as such. The little lure, its tail wiggles. It's quite good to see in the water. Can't quite fish that. The rod's just not long enough to get beyond the weed, so I'm just pulling straight into the weed all the time. Now, because I've never been here before, I wasn't aware of the conditions of the loch, the banks, etc. And it is very weedy. Your access to the bank isn't that good. There has been quite extensive weed pulling by the water authority over the last few months, because it's all up along the bank now, but to fish it's quite difficult. So I've come to this area now, which is right next to the other loch, loch number 2, and it's a little bit more area for me to fish, and there's a nice big channel all the way down the middle of there, so I'm going to give that a go. And because the loch is 200 meters long between lochs, most of the fish in here are pretty much trapped, and I haven't actually seen any fish at all yet, but we've got to give it a go. The water's lovely and clear, so let's see how we get on. Let's try in this area now to see if I can pull anything out. Straight into a clump of weed. Nothing is following it in anywhere. Nothing. There are no signs of any fish. Can't believe there isn't, but there's just nothing following it in. Sometimes you can just watch them chase it, curiosity, that sort of thing, but nothing. I'll still keep going. I'll just turn the camera off for now, and I'm going to keep going for a little while, see how we get on. It's just starting to rain, but if the weather does turn really bad, it doesn't make any difference. I've got the gear to protect myself. The only difference is I'd have to put my GoPro on as opposed to my normal camera, because my GoPro can handle the rain, whereas this one can't. Something for the camera, sir. Every time I cast in, I'm picking up weed. So, despite changing over to a spinner for a little while, I didn't see any more fish, and to be fair, the spinner I needed to be a lot faster with the spinner, and it wasn't heavy, so I couldn't really get far out, so I went straight back onto the drop shot and still haven't seen anything since. So I'm going to move on down the river. I'm learning very quickly that this is a very, very weedy canal, and maybe I should have been better off back on my water right next to my house, where it's a lot more clearer and a lot more well maintained on the banks. But I'm here now, and I'm not going to give up just yet. I'm not going to go too much further down the road, but down the canal, but I am going to give this area a little go. But my patience is running out because it is very, very weedy. Well, I've gone down as far as Loch 3. What I will probably do now is make my way back to the marina at Gallgate and try some waters which maybe aren't so weedy. I've only seen one fish all morning, so we can do but try. I'm hoping you can see that lure, see how it's working. It works really well. I really like that. Well, you can't blame me for trying. Saturday afternoon, chilling out by the canal. What more do you want? I can have a look at my camera. The big dead cat on it. I've also got the windjammer on this thing now, so I'm hoping that it's going to so I'm hoping the windjammer's working, and I won't know until I get home. But putting it on my head, walking around with it on my head, I don't really like too much. I feel a bit of a dick, to be honest. Let me show you. See what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, there's nobody around. Hence that. Filming you, filming me. Yeah, it's not something that I would wear in public too much. I would certainly need to get used to it. I don't mind it without the wind sock on it, but this thing makes it look a bit more chunky. Yeah, not so keen on it. But if it works, it's great. Quite a nice way to spend a Saturday afternoon, isn't it? I've always fancied it, to be honest. I've always fancied a canal boat. I won't be getting one. Well, that looks promising between the boats and the dock there, so I'll just give a couple of casts into that, see if I can get anything. Yeah, that's a football match. I just hope I can get out. Well, that's my first attempt at drop shot fishing, and not a very successful one at that, but I don't mind. It was still an enjoyable afternoon. There were different types of water, one very weedy, one very used. Changed the different lures to cope with those different situations. Still didn't work. Well, that attempt didn't work too well, did it? So here we are again, a week later, back on the bank, a little bit closer to home this time, and not so weedy waters, and definitely not as cloudy as well. So a little bit better all round. More than happy with this one. So let's see if I can at last pull a fish out of this bleeding water. The conditions of the canal are quite good at the moment. Not so much boats moving around, so it keeps it clear. It's only when you get a lot of movement. What I'm keen to see is something following it in. I'd like to see something following it in. You know, being curious to the lure gives you a little bit of hope, doesn't it? Ooh. Anyway, let's move a bit further up, see how we get on a bit further up. There's a few areas that I'd really like to try today. Well, there's clearly fish right out in front of me. I don't know what they are or how big they are, but they're right there in front of me. How can I not give it a go? Oh, there was clearly fish there. Was. One of the major disadvantages of fishing this side is purely and simply it's very busy, and I have to be very conscious about who's passing me. Make sure I don't get turned over or my camera gone. No. Now the weather forecast is supposed to be quite bad, so I'm prepared for it. Again. Clearly silverfish there. Where there's one, there's usually another. But no joy. Move on.
Don't leave that there, the way they cycle down here, mate. Yeah, mate. Try not to get on your cable.
It's alright, just if you need to go by, just go by.
Get my blurred ginger fuzz on them. Well, I am saying, you know, be wary of the bites, mate, because they come down here like a bat out of hell. I don't want them to knock your camera over.
Thank you very much.
I've got a camera, I know what to do.
Yeah, I've seen a few to be fair, but thank you anyhow.
I'll come back in a minute with this one. It's a more picturesque way to get something.
Yeah, it is indeed. Little tiny pike, just follow that in then, really tiny little pike. This is Bridge 111. There was definitely a lot more fish action this part of the canal than I seen last week, but I'm sure that was a carp I've seen. I've no wind protection on my mic, so you may find that it's quite a blowy one. When the weather gets bad, I do have my GoPro. Ooh. I keep picking up weed and thinking something's following it in, but it's actually the lead weight with weed on it. But I have seen a small pike. Because the water's a little bit more clearer here, I've still got the luminous lure on. And if I don't have any joy with that, what I might do is go back to something a bit more natural looking. But the thing is, I love the action of this lure. It catches me. But it's not doing so good for fish yet. And there's so many different ways that you can fish this lure. I mean, I'm just bobbing it up and down right now, using the weight to create the effect. It might seem like a strange way to fish, but I have caught trout and all sorts of manners of fish by doing something silly like this. So I've just got this little bit of weed or bulrushes in front of us. Just going to see if I can just drop it in the middle of that. Try not to get snagged up. By watching the lure in close and practicing, it sort of gives you the right motion for your rod tip. So when you can't see it, you know you're doing the right thing. Once again, this drop shot fishing isn't producing me any fish, despite what I believe to be fishing correctly. Well, I'm only doing what other people have done on YouTube. If you look at all the other YouTube videos, they do exactly the same thing. Long shot. Yeah, once you pick up a clump of weed, you ain't getting rid of it. Even on those tiny leads. Although they're pretty good at removing the weed, they still pick it up. Right, move on. No joy here. It just looked right, didn't it? You'd definitely have a few maggots on that, wouldn't you? I just missed that then. There was a bird of prey. And it's just nicked a blackbird out of the bush. Some lily pads right in front of me. Gotta try that. The thing that put me off this technique of fishing is the fact that it is bringing weed with it all the time. And it it makes me want to go onto a spinner. But this is a very slow pace, whereas a spinner's much faster. I noticed that last week, where I needed to put the spinner on. I had to do a fish a lot faster to get the reaction from the spinner, whereas the reaction from these lures is much, much slower. I mean, those casts are right on the money. If you were float fishing, that's where you'd want to be. It looks like some reeds have torn away from the bank and, well, in that little bowl, you just got to. Yeah, I think that donkey's talking to me. Brilliant cast. Can't get any better than that. Is it going to have a fish? No. Rain's coming on now. I knew it was coming. Once it starts, it ain't going to stop. And this camera isn't designed for rain. No. Listen, I've got to get this camera out of the rain. So we're going to move. There's a bridge coming up, a big one. We're going to go there. So here we are under this huge bridge. But the only trouble is, it's a wind tunnel, and I've no muffler on my camera on this one. So I forgot it. So we may just have to do a voiceover, or it might not be too bad. Anyone local to Morecambe or Lancaster will know exactly where I am. They always say under bridges that they say you're supposed to tilt the rod at the 10 o'clock angle. But I think it depends on how close you are to the lure. I think the angle should drop as it comes close in, but I don't know. That's what I do. There's nothing wrong with the technique that I'm using, nothing whatsoever. But for some reason, they just ain't having it. There is an area a little bit further up that I've always wanted to fish ever since I've moved to Lancaster, and I've never got around to do it. I'm going to fish it this morning. Even if it pours down, I'm still going to do it. Morning. I think you can make out with this camera the difference in colour of the water as the boat goes by, as it churns it up, so you don't really know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Do the fish go into that and feed or what? We don't know, do we really? But just beyond that, this is quite a wide section, it's like a passing place. I'm actually going to give it a couple of goes here. I'm going to get to my final furthest. I'm going to walk out and definitely going to change my lures again. See how we get on with that. I've just come up to my favourite spot. Well, not my favourite spot, it's the first time I've ever fished it. And there was a lad in there just a minute ago, and he's had 2 pike out this morning. Now I'm not fishing for pike, but he said they were definitely on the hunt, First couple hours of light this morning, so hopefully the perch will still be. This is somewhere I've actually purposely come to fish this, but the chap's now moved on, which is nice. It means I can get in and do what I want to do. But if I get a pike on that, I'm just going to lose it straight away. There's no way I'm bringing a pike in on that tackle. But hopefully, let's just see how we get on. Camera is under the bridge at the moment, purely and simply because it's just going to get too wet. So let's have a quick session here. Quite weedy, but I need to get the hat on the camera. So I may need to use my GoPro after this. So the weather has really took a turn for the worse now, and it is raining, but I've now got my GoPro out, and I'm hoping that you should be able to see everything, but it is quite weedy here, so we'll just give it a few goes. This probably has to be my best chance here, where there's no weed. Well, less weed. That's definitely the spot, really, before that bank of weed moves in onto that spot. You can see the weed just moving in, so I don't know how long I've got. Ow! Ow! Well, I'll say this, the bloody hooks are sharp. Over by those lily pads should be a perfect spot. Let's try a little bit faster. I'm perhaps going to have to be a little bit more risky and get a little bit tighter up to those. Well, a bit tighter up to the tree line. Maybe if I come this way. And try not to catch the tree in my cast. Slowly but surely losing the ability to cast because that weed's moving in on me. Oh, I'm in the trees. I knew it was going to happen at some point. I don't think I'll get this back. No, this is a goner. There we go. It's gone. Yeah. Let's give that a go. Make sure that waste is stacked away. Get that away. And now I've got Operation Cluster underneath my spool. When it goes wrong royally, doesn't it? Well, I have to go back to the only place I can really sensibly fish. It just makes sense. So it's risky, but that's the nature of the beast. You've got to take a risk. It's the only clear water I've got in this whole entire bowl. You can see how weedy it is. So it's not easy for me at all. We'll give it a try here. See if I can keep away from that tree this time. Well, despite my best efforts, this is proving to be a bit useless. I can't fish in these conditions. I can't fish here with this technique. It's just not having it. It's too much weed going on. So all we can do here, I don't like how that hook's sitting. Why isn't that sitting right? There we go, that's better. There. I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to move back to where I got hung up. No, this is just not happening. Shame. I've been wanting to fish here for ages. I get here and I can't because it's too weedy. Oh well. A different style of fishing for this at this moment in time. Ooh, a bit tight. Still trying different methods, still jigging it, just pulling it in, all different ways of getting that lure to try and attract a fish. Yeah, you have to keep your eye on what's going on because it's very easy to be spinning along or trailing along only to notice that your lure's actually out of the water. So you take your eye off it just for a second and your lure's out of the water. Let's try that corner there. It's very shallow. Well, it doesn't have to be deep water. Canal fishing isn't, is it? Oop! I do have to keep my rod a little bit lower down, not the 10 o'clock as recommended by others, because it will just come out of the water. Oop, picked a bit of weed up now. Why do people hang dog shit in plastic bags in the trees? Why do people do that? I can't get my head around that. Look at that underneath them trees. It's so shallow though, it's so shallow. It's about a foot deep. Well, 2 sessions. One morning session today, one afternoon session last week, using the drop shot method. What? Using the drop shot method, easy for me to say with these teeth. I have to admit, I've not had a single bite. I've seen 2 fish. One was a baby pike and I'm sure the other one was a carp last week. Now, I guess it's just my luck. I've done nothing different than I've seen anyone else, all their videos, nothing different whatsoever, exactly the same, and I've still had no result. So there you go, just my luck, I suppose. That's just the way it is for me. Even I've got Slutchy Dave's stolen rod, and no matter how much gear you've got, all the gear and no idea, maybe that's the case, I don't know, but no joy. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you very much. That's the end of this video, and see you next time. Maybe I'll have some better luck. Anyway, it is a fishing video with no fish in it. Again. One other thing. I've been very lacking in answering comments recently. I'm not going to make an excuse, I shouldn't do. It's naughty of me and I should be answering your comments. So I guarantee I'll be answering all your comments soon, over the next few days. Alright, so very naughty of me. I should be doing it.